I woke to a razor-sharp shh, the kind of spray paint hiss that slices through silence like a blade. I ripped open the blinds and felt my heart drop. I bolted to the window, and there she was, a middle-aged woman in a pink robe, fuzzy slippers, and the wild focus of a demolition expert, tagging my sheriff's cruiser with giant, red letters. Violation. Bright red and dripping down government property. She did not tremble for fear of her, smiled with a triumphant smile and said, "Relax, Sheriff," she said. "I'm simply enforcing the law." I opened my mouth to respond, but that's when I noticed the second message she'd sprayed. Not for the HOA, not for the neighborhood, for me. And it wasn't a warning, it was a promise. Most people meet their HOA president over a welcome packet or a polite reminder about trash bins. I met mine while she was tagging my government vehicle like a bored teenager with a grudge. Patricia Harrington wasn't just the president of Riverside Heights, she was its self-appointed monarch. 52 silver bob pink robe and the kind of posture that screamed, "I write complaint emails for fun." She didn't walk, she inspected. Every driveway, every mailbox, every blade of grass lived under her jurisdiction. The woman treated the HOA rulebook like scripture and everyone else like sinners. I had seen her around before, measuring my lawn with a tape measure, taking pictures of my porch light, leaving violation slips on my windshield like she was tagging evidence at a crime scene. She never smiled, not unless she was catching someone breaking code. And from the moment I moved in with a sheriff's cruiser parked in my driveway, Patricia had found her new mission in life. A uniform, a badge, a car she couldn't control. To her, I wasn't a neighbor, I was a threat to her tiny empire. What I didn't know then was that her obsession with control didn't stop at lawn height or mailbox colors. It went much, much darker. And people had died for crossing her before. When I moved to Riverside Heights, I thought I was finally stepping into the quiet chapter of my life. After 2 deployments in Afghanistan and 15 years on the force, I wanted predictable mornings, trimmed lawns, and maybe a backyard grill that didn't sit next to a crime scene. My brother Brad lived here, mild-mannered, conflict-avoidant, and proud member of the HOA board. He said the neighborhood was peaceful. Looking back, I should have asked him to define that word. I bought the place because it felt safe. Good schools, clean sidewalks, neighbors who waved politely. And honestly, after spending years reading Danger in Every Shadow, I was ready for a street where the biggest threat was a raccoon in the trash cans. My routine settled fast: early morning patrol shift, coffee on the porch, after mowing the lawn on Saturdays, checking in on the older residents when I was off duty. Normal, boring, exactly what I thought I needed. But even in those first few days, cracks showed. A bright yellow violation notice on my door, improper vehicle placement. An email from the HOA about visual uniformity. Patricia standing at the edge of my driveway, writing something on her clipboard, while pretending not to see me watching her. At first, I chalked it up to typical HOA micromanagement. Annoying, sure, but harmless. Then Sofia Rivera, the influencer who lived next door, knocked on my door one evening, holding her phone like it was a piece of evidence. "Sheriff, you should see this." It was a video from her outdoor cameras, Patricia circling my cruiser, taking photos from every angle, like she was building a case file. Another clip showed her crouched next to my lawn with a ruler. Another captured her pacing in front of my porch at midnight, muttering to herself. Still, I told myself it was just another overzealous HOA president. I'd seen worse in my career. But the way she stared at my badge, the way she said my name like it was a stain she couldn't scrub, and the way other neighbors stiffened whenever she walked by, those were warning signs I should have paid more attention to. Because Patricia wasn't just enforcing rules, she was evaluating threats. And I had unknowingly signed myself up as her next target. The morning after the spray paint incident, Patricia pretended the world was normal, but her war started quietly. By 7 a.m., 6 new violation notices were taped to my door in a perfect grid. My improper vehicle, my non-conforming porch decor, even my aggressive lawn angle. I didn't know what an aggressive lawn angle was, but according to Patricia, I had one. Everywhere I turned, she watched me with that clipboard tucked under her arm like a weapon. She didn't speak. She didn't blink. She just documented. Sophia kept sending me clips from her cameras, Patricia pacing the street at night, pointing her laser measurer at my windows, squatting beside my grass with a ruler in the moonlight. Nothing she did violated the law, but it was precise, purposeful, a pattern. She wasn't correcting me. She was profiling me, and I had no idea what she was building toward, only that every quiet, unsettling step was leading somewhere far darker. A few days later, Patricia stopped pretending to stay on her side of the property line. I caught her standing dead center in my driveway, phone out taking close-ups of my squad car like it was evidence in a homicide. When I stepped outside, she didn't apologize. She just snapped another picture and said, documenting ongoing offenses. That same afternoon, I noticed muddy footprints near my back gate, small, deliberate, not mine. My camera feed confirmed it, Patricia hood up inspecting the hinges like she was preparing an intrusion checklist. Then came the countdown. At sunset, Sophia texted Sheriff, "Look at your wall." I stepped outside and saw a giant projected timer glowing red across my siding. 23594 0235939 235938. Patricia stood in her window, arms crossed, watching me read it. In the HOA group chat screenshots Brad forwarded Patricia, threatened to expose neighbors' debts, tax issues, even medical bills unless they supported enforcement action against me. She wasn't just crossing boundaries, she was erasing them, and she wanted everyone to know she had the power to do it. My mistake was thinking she had reached her limit. After I invited 20 patrol units for a law enforcement appreciation parking festival and filled the entire street with cruisers, Patricia cracked. Completely. She came storming out with a megaphone screaming about illegal gatherings, civil disobedience, and environmental disruption caused by reflective decals. The neighborhood laughed. Patricia didn't. That's when things turned real. The next morning, one of my security cameras was smashed clean off its mount. My mailbox had a dent the size of a fist and a note inside reading, "Lawbreakers don't last here." Then Internal Affairs called. Someone had filed an anonymous tip accusing me of abusing police authority parking, illegally intimidating residents, and misusing department property. All lies, but IA has to investigate every allegation. Suddenly, I was burning hours, writing statements, pulling footage, proving my own innocence. That evening, Bobby, retired detective, and the only man who'd seen more crazy than I, had stopped by with a quiet warning. "Marcus, she's not just petty, she's dangerous." You ever hear the name Harold? I hadn't. But I'd soon learn that crossing Patricia wasn't just inconvenient. For some men, it had been fatal. The next week, my door turned into a revolving circus of city officials responding to anonymous complaints. Code enforcement claimed I'd built an unapproved structure. Animal control said someone reported a violent, unlicensed dog. The water department showed up to check for illegal sprinkler modifications. Every report was fake, everyone traced back to Patricia. I started documenting everything, timestamps, videos, emails. I forwarded it all to Agent Stone, an old FBI contact from a joint task force years ago. While I was gathering evidence, Bobby finally told me what the neighborhood whispered but never said aloud. 3 former husbands, 3 sudden deaths, all within 30 days of filing separation, all after eating her homemade soup, all signed off by Patricia herself, a former doctor with enough authority to shield the truth. I stared at Bobby's face at the hard lines of a man who'd buried too many suspicions. "Son," he said quietly, "you're not dealing with a bully. You're dealing with a pattern." And the pattern always ended the same way. Everything changed at 2:03 a.m. Watching my security monitors, I saw a shadow move across the backyard. Patricia dressed head to toe in black, like she'd Googled tactical gear for beginners. She carried a ladder, a duffel bag, and another can of red paint. Sophia was watching too. She whispered through the phone, "Sheriff, she's talking to herself." Patricia muttered as she positioned the ladder. "Get out. Respect the rules." Harold laughed too. They all laughed. She climbed to my second-story siding and began spray painting a message, "Get out or die." The letters dripped down the wall like blood. Then karma, or do, struck. She slipped. The paint can flew. Patricia crashed into my rose bushes with a shriek that woke half the block. I ran outside. She lunged at me, nails out, and clawed my hand so hard I felt a burn sharp, instant wrong. She dropped a ring, she dropped a set of keys, and she dropped a small leather notebook. I grabbed it before she could. For the first time, Patricia looked terrified. Inside that notebook were names, amounts, dates, recipes. And as my vision blurred, my arm numbing where she'd scratched me, I realized she hadn't come to vandalize me. She'd come to finish a pattern. By the time the scratch on my hand started burning like fire, I finally understood what Bobby meant about Patricia's husbands. The swelling wasn't normal. The purple streaks weren't normal. Her ring, the oversized gaudy one she wore during every HOA inspection, had a hidden needle in it, a delivery system. She didn't just claw me, she poisoned me. My vision blurred, my knees buckled, and the paramedics rushed me into the back of the ambulance just as the entire neighborhood erupted in flashing lights. FBI SUVs, SWAT trucks, state police cruisers. Riverside Heights looked less like a suburb and more like a federal takedown. Agent Stone climbed out of his vehicle, stone-faced and furious, shouting orders as his team surrounded Patricia's house with rifles raised. Patricia Harrington, step outside now. But Patricia didn't step outside. She climbed onto the roof, bathed in the glow of red and blue lights, wearing a crooked tinfoil crown and gripping a modified leaf blower filled with red paint. She pointed it at the officers like it was a weapon. "I am the rules," she screeched. And even half-conscious, I knew. This wasn't just an arrest. This was the collapse of a tyrant. Agent Stone raised the bullhorn, voice steady but sharp enough to cut through Patricia's rooftop, ranting. "Patricia Harrington, we have your notebook, your financial transfers, and video evidence of your threats. Step down now." Patricia froze mid-swing of her paint blower eyes, locking onto the clear evidence bag he held up. Inside was the leather notebook she dropped when she clawed me with that poisoned ring. Sophia's live stream zoomed in perfectly, broadcasting the contents to hundreds of thousands of viewers, names, dates, insurance payouts, chemical notes, and recipes for toxins derived from plants in her award-winning garden. The comments exploded. "Wait, is this a hit list? That's 3 life insurance claims. Yo, is she a serial killer OA president?" Patricia's face twisted in panic. "That ledger is fake. I am the protector here. They broke the contract. They broke me. Harold, George, William, they all." She clapped a hand over her mouth too late. Her confession about her husbands, about the rules, about the soup, was already live, replayed, clipped, and trending. Stone didn't even bother to raise his voice. "Patricia Harrington, you have just confessed to 3 murders and 1 attempted murder." And silence fell over the roof. Patricia didn't choose surrender. She chose chaos. With a guttural scream, she charged across the shingles, firing streaks of red paint at the officers below. But the same paint she weaponized, coated her boots, and she slipped momentum, carrying her straight off the roof. She pinwheeled through the air like a deranged parade float and crashed into the giant inflatable rescue cushion. The impact launched her back up once, twice, before she collapsed in a heap, crowned sideways, paint blower sputtering. SWAT moved fast. She clawed, kicked, snapped at them like a wild animal. At one point, she even ripped off her sock and tried to throw it at Agent Stone while screeching violation illegal footwear. They finally strapped her down. But the real downfall came in the courtroom. Patricia fired her attorney immediately and insisted on representing herself. She drew a fake tie onto her prison jumpsuit with toothpaste to look professional, then objected to every single thing in the trial. Objection. "The evidence table is misaligned by 3 degrees. Objection. The prosecutor's binder violates aesthetic uniformity. Objection. The judge's pen is not HOA approved." But the jury saw the truth, the ledger, the ring with the hidden needle, the judge's Hendon binder, embezzled funds, the toxicology reports, the confessions from her rooftop meltdown. The verdict was swift. Guilty. On every count. Patricia exhaled, smirked, and hissed, "You're all fined." And with that, the tyrant of Riverside Heights was finally removed for good. The anti-venom hit my system like a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Feeling slowly returned to my fingers. The pounding heat in my arm faded to a dull ache. And for the first time since Patricia clawed me with that ring, I realized I wasn't dying. I was surviving her. They kept me overnight at the hospital for observation. Officers, deputies, even a few firefighters dropped by to crack jokes about the HOA takedown of the century. But what surprised me was the flood of messages from neighbors I barely knew. "Thank you. We were all scared of her. I'm sorry we didn't speak up sooner." When I finally walked back into Riverside Heights, it didn't feel like the same neighborhood. People came out of their homes not to complain, not to whisper, but to talk, to laugh, to breathe. Parents let their kids play in the cul-de-sac again. Seniors sat on their porches without checking over their shoulders. HOA meetings no longer felt like sentencing hearings. A weight had lifted everyone had been pretending wasn't there. The night after Patricia's conviction, the neighborhood threw a bonfire in the community park. They handed me a lighter and pointed to the 800-page HOA rulebook Patricia had enforced like a holy text. I flicked the flame. The pages curled, blackened, and turned into ash as neighbors roasted marshmallows over the remnants of mailbox height regulations and lawn angle bylaws. After years of fear, Riverside Heights was finally human again. Patricia Harrington didn't just get arrested. She faced every single consequence she'd earned over years of terrorizing an entire community. The FBI tore apart her financial networks, uncovering hidden accounts, falsified HOA fees, and 7 years' worth of compliance penalties she'd pocketed. Every dollar was seized, every scheme exposed. Her victims, neighbors, she bullied families she extorted, and the loved ones of the 3 men she poisoned finally got restitution. Checks mailed, debts cleared, lives repaired. But money wasn't the harshest consequence. Truth was, for years, Patricia ruled Riverside Heights through fear, threatening seniors with liens, humiliating parents at meetings, stalking homeowners with a clipboard like a weapon. She treated the HOA rulebook like a throne, and everyone else like peasants beneath it. Now, that power dissolved in a courtroom. The jury didn't fear her. The judge didn't tolerate her interruptions. The law didn't bend to her imaginary authority. Every tactic she used, manipulation, intimidation, weaponized rules, was dissected, documented, and displayed for the world to see. Her poison ring, her ledger, her lies, all reduced to exhibits tagged and numbered. And the sentence reflected exactly what she deserved. 3 life sentences for murder, 25 additional years for attempted murder, permanent ban from holding any HOA or community authority ever again. The woman who once controlled a neighborhood with fear now couldn't even control the lights in her prison cell. 6 months after the trial, Riverside Heights finally exhaled. Kids played in the street without someone measuring chalkline distances. Neighbors planted gardens without being fined for unauthorized flower density. People laughed again, really laughed, the kind that had been missing for years under Patricia's silent surveillance. As for me, I kept one small reminder of the war we survived, a thin, perfectly preserved strip of red paint on my cruiser's hood, a scar sealed under clear coat, a reminder that even monsters sometimes wear bunny slippers. Life found a rhythm. Sophia grew her channel into a national platform for HOA reform. Bobby kept dropping tomatoes on my porch every Sunday. Brad finally stood tall, no longer the timid banker terrified of a clipboard. He'd learned courage the hard way. Then karma arrived. It came in the form of a wrinkled envelope postmarked from the women's penitentiary. Inside was a napkin scribbled in what I prayed was ketchup Marcus. These inmates have no regard for order. Laundry cycles inconsistent. Uniforms wrinkled. I am forming a committee. New bylaws drafted soon. P.S. Your grass was long on the news. Patricia hadn't changed. She never would. But her kingdom had. In prison, no one cared about her rules. No one bowed to her imaginary authority. No one trembled at her threats. Her clipboard was replaced with a tray. Her power replaced with confinement. Her voice replaced with silence. That is karma, not revenge. Just the universe putting her exactly where she belonged. Now every evening I sit on my porch with a cup of coffee, watching my cruiser parked intentionally, a little crooked shining under the sunset. Quiet, peaceful, finally home. And if there's one thing Riverside Heights learned, it's this. You don't defeat a bully by bending. You defeat them by refusing to fear them.